Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Mission Yozakura Family, Season 1, Episode 13. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, with the opening being what it was, I thought it was going to, especially because it turns out it's like Taiyo having a nightmare about the day his parent, that moment his family died. I was almost wondering if we were going to find out it was like the anniversary of their death or something, but just giving you a little more insight into what was going on during that accident. Obviously, Taiyo playing the game and showing it off to his little brother, which almost makes you wonder, he's, Shion's on a different level, but I guess that's why he's probably like a little bit of a gamer himself, probably amongst anyone. So I'm curious if that kind of played any role in his accidental exploits of like bugs and exploits in episode 6 or not. Obviously that was all kind of accidental, but I'm curious. But either way, obviously it's like his dad works a lot, and this was kind of like the one opportunity they could get away. I thought it was interesting because I was like, cool, cause we at this point in time we don't know enough about Taiyo's family, like his mom and dad, because we find out in this episode his dad worked for a pharmaceutical company. We still don't know what their mom did. Like their mom could have just been like a stay-at-home mom for all we know, but it's like interesting because it's like, right, we didn't know enough about them. And so Taiyo is with Shion and Mitsumi as they look at what was on the optical device, and it turns out it's a reception list for a wedding reception, and it's for their mom and dad getting married. And they said it was kind of like a general public thing, anyone can kind of show it, but one of the people on the list, two of the people on the list is Akari and Hide, Taiyo's parents. So that then becomes the question of, so they have some ties to the Yozakuras, but just we don't know what. But then poor Mitsumi was like, we should get divorced. It's because Taiyo was handling it in a way. Even Shion was like, wow, I'm surprised you're handling this so well. He's like, right, ever since I talked to Kurogao, I've been mentally preparing myself for there being more to this, so I've been bracing myself for it. But the one who was actually having the most mental breakdown for this was Mitsumi, because she was blaming herself. She's like, oh my god, I would never be able to forgive myself if it turns out your family died because of their connection to mine. But I brought this up last episode too when it came to the mall situation. It's the same mall Taiyo would go to with his family. Sure, regular people go there, but it's just too coincidental. Maybe even them because let's not forget, Taiyo and Mitsumi were neighbors for the most part. That's how they first became associated with each other. They, on the way to school is how they bump into each other, and they kept it very oh, hi. That's all it was until they got to, I think, middle school is when things changed for them, obviously, when we got that flashback about her getting bullied for the white streaks in her hair. But it's all a little too coincidental, so it becomes the situation of, well, what would the Yozakuras and the Asanos have in common? Well, Taiyo says it's all in the past. All he wants to do is focus on being where he is right now, having because he's lucky to have what he has, so he's not going to drown in the past like Kurogao did. But it's not like I'm going to forget about it either. I want to seek out the truth. Let's find out together. So, and I love that he's like, well, I know this might be selfish of me, but Shion can, and she's like, wow, don't even why would you even ask that, you idiot? You're my kid brother. Of course I'm gonna back you up, and pokes him in the eye. But they have to go to the Library of the Dead, which I love that whole bit. Michan being the scariest librarian ever. You can't make even a monochrome of noise. I don't know if she kills you, or it's most likely she's not killing you. She's paralyzing you. But what she does with you when she stabs you with her claws, who knows what. But it's every little thing of right, someone makes too much noise. Damn, it's oh, we also have to turn your earpiece down. We want to make sure that we communicate through you with the lowest volume. I was like, does Taiyo really need to sneak around as long as he's not making any noise? She attacks one dude because she said his face was too loud. Even Taiyo's thinking that's unreasonable. Oh, you can't cough because the moment you cough, you get caught. It's just every little thing. Someone closed the book too hard. I'm like, is it really that necessary? But she's all about keeping the peace of the dead, and the dead can't exist, rest in peace with all this noise around, and especially considering what that library is. It's a collection of so much death, so there's so many souls and spirits that it kind of represents. So it's understandable why Michan is so protective of him, but it's she goes so above and beyond. I even love when Taiyo got a book and he almost dropped it. You see a whole bunch of characters go whoop, whoop. And then he picked it up and it was okay. Everyone was like, oh God, everyone sighed relief at that moment. I love that bit. But he ultimately ends up finding a file on his dad, and the file reads like the entire Asano family died, which is interesting. So the people responsible, especially as it comes up later on, it's like, oh, I heard there was a rumor that you were still alive. So I guess we find out the organization responsible for his family's death is Tanpopo, the title of the episode. Now the question becomes, like, despite everything Tayo's done, I guess his name hasn't really registered enough. Like, he's part of the Yosakuras and he's gained a reputation as the rookie. So I guess not everyone, people hear the name, but I guess they don't put two and two together that he's an Asano, because I guess at this point in time, I mean, I'm trying to think, like, do people, like, I'm trying to think about any time Tayo was referenced. Like, they call him, like, by his full name, like, Tayo Asano, right? He's not, like, or is he already, like, Tayo Yozakura? That's what I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think back to, like, any time people came after him. I don't remember if it was ever, like, his name is still, like, Asano to most people and not, like, automatically married into, because he is married into the Yozakura family now. So I think that's so fascinating. But, like, I like that, how that, when again, this espionage, secret spy stuff, that basically the optical device he got from Kurogao acts as a key, and it reveals the real information on the page that they were targeted by Tanpopo. Like I said, he's supposed to be dead. So it is that thing of, was it actually a miracle he survived, even though it seemed like they were gunning for him to be dead too? Or could this have been some long orchestrated plan of, like, did they know? I mean, Tayo had a tangential connection to the Yosakuras already, so I'm curious if, because he, like, at a very young age, and obviously he got close to Mitsumi in middle school, so I wonder, was this orchestrated that far back? But it seems like it's more so about whatever his dad was involved with, which we'll get to in a bit. But I don't know, it makes you wonder, when did the staging process start? Because it turns out the Tanpopos have been after the Yozakura family for a while now. But like I said, we'll get to that in a second. First and foremost, the book explodes in very spy fashion, and now Tayo has to escape Michan, who is coming after him. So, has to run for his life, like, set off, like, the electricals, so, like, it turns off the lights. He's running. Shion's leading him out, but the problem is she's too fast, and she can hear him wherever he goes, even without the lights on. But luckily, Mitsumi came through with the save of using the, like, powerful comm device he has, boosting the audio, and then, like, shouting into Michan's ears, because she has very sensitive hearing. So, and that allows them to escape. And later on, Tayo talks to Kishiro, who reveals Tanpopo isn't just responsible for the death of the Asano family. I mean, that's also the thing too. We're only talking about the immediate family. We haven't really touched on any extended family Tayo has. Like, maybe his family has a lengthy history just like the Yosakuras, or maybe it's just purely about Hide and what he was a part of and working with. But anyway, Kishiro says that they've come after the Yosakuras. First and foremost, they're the ones who murdered Mitsumi's mom, which, once again, the fact is he phrases it like that. I still keep going back and forth. Once again, it's kind of a moot point, but it does feel like they are going to make a point of none of the Yosakuras are blood related. They all probably have different moms and dads, or maybe they just have a different mom. Well, because that's the thing, though, because, like, the Yosakura thing, it's like, it's in the Yosakura head's blood is where the power comes from that gives the Yosakuras their special innate abilities and senses. We will talk about that a little bit later on, too, but so that would mean, like, maybe they have different fathers, but they all have the same mother, Mitsumi. But even Kishiro was like, Mitsumi's mom, not our mom. But Shion and Futaba were saying, like, our mom. So the fact is, I don't know if Kishiro has, like, a little bit of a dissonance thing. Maybe, like, being the oldest son, he has, like, a little bit of a, maybe he had a complicated relationship initially with, maybe it's like a thing of him and Mitsumi's mom didn't initially get along because of that, but then eventually he came to love her. But the fact is, he, even at this age, he still has that dissonance of Mitsumi's mom, not our mom. Once again, I brought this up last episode too, like the father conversation hadn't gotten brought up, because we saw that, like, Keiko and Bon, we got introduced to them last episode, but the conversation about their daughter, Mitsumi's mom, never really came up. It's a touchy subject, so obviously you don't want to talk about it. But also like Futaba, not that episode, but the episode before last, that was episode 10, or was that 11? Whatever the case may be. Futaba had talked about her mom's death, and at the time I was like, oh, maybe it's like their mom was sick, because no matter how strong you are, you can't, there's certain things you can't fight, like tying it into like the supernatural and curse stuff. But that's also like, once again, she waves it off. It's like, oh, making myself afraid of ghosts and stuff like that. It's just a funner, less dark way of dealing with what I'm really dealing with. So it turns out it is just, in actuality, I wasn't strong enough to protect our mom. Like, that there's just some things that no matter how strong I am, I won't be strong enough to do what I want to be able to do to protect the people I care about. So, yeah. Kishiro's been looking into Tanpopo for a while, but he's always come up with dead ends until the situation with Taiyo gave him a starting point. Because it's like, he looks into, like a month before and after Taiyo's family died, it turns out there are 15 medical people in the medical field that suspiciously died in accidents. And it all ties back to, Kawashita medical company or whatever, led by Makoto Kawashita. So it's like, okay, so maybe this guy has something to do with the family's death. So it involves Taiyo and Mitsumi going undercover, being this old married couple. And I love that, like, she was really getting into it, even later on feeding him food just to play into the role of it. But she's like, oh, I like the thought of like maybe us, being able to retire at ages like this and just being able to live comfortably, not having to worry about bounties or assassins and stuff. And Taiyo being like, yeah, I like the thought of that. He's like the fact that she was even talking about like, hey, like us being there for each other in our final moments. And Taiyo says like the sweetest thing where it's like, yeah, I hope like you're there for me in my final moments, because I'd rather go before you, because I mean, I don't know how I could go on living on without you. And she's just like, oh my god, Taiyo is like, yeah, what's the smoothest, like sweetest stuff, because it's even sweeter because he wasn't trying to say something mushy, it just naturally came out that way. And she's like, yeah, say that line again. It's like really sweet. It's so interesting because it almost feels like the inverse of, which isn't the takeaway, like I was about to say, it just seems like the inverse of Bon and Keiko's relationship. It feels like Taiyo's the Keiko and Bon is Mitsumi. Just because like he seems like the extremely affectionate type of like, oh my god, let's go on a date, I got all this stuff for you. And Keiko just kind of takes it in stride, which isn't to mean like she loves him any less, and that's not to say like Taiyo loves Mitsumi any less than she loves him, not in that regard, but it's just like how they go about displaying it. She like I said, she's kind of got that very affectionate side to herself, like her grandfather. It's just you can tell like Bon is her grandfather. That's all I'm trying to say. So I think it's just an inverse parallel that I think is interesting. Because initially when you meet Makoto, he seems like a pretty nice dude. But you could tell he was feeling something was up. Because he's like, oh man, despite your age, you don't have any chipped teeth and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, probably little details like that are probably important to kind of keep in mind. I also love that Kishiro made him use a massive weight. Because that weight is meant to replicate like him moving slowly. Like that way you're able to make it seem like you actually are an old man and stuff. So, but when Makoto ends up leaving, that's when Taiyo springs into action and like downloads information on his computer. It turns out what this is all about is I'm going to butcher it. It's like Somenin. It's the thing in the Yozakura family head. It's in their blood that allows the Yosakuras to have the enhanced senses and abilities. As we know, it all stems from the but it's something specifically in their blood, and that's what they're after, because it's something unique. It's simple yet unique to the Yosakuras because it has not been able to be, no one can synthetically replicate it so far. And it's necessary because it's basically a steroid. We don't know like what the like lasting effects would be on someone, but it can be just as potent for someone outside of the Yosakuras as well, which I think is also supposed to be poignant about Taiyo as the outsider not partaking in the blood of the being as he is. And maybe that'll be something we see later on, kind of utilizing that as like a last minute booster of like, injecting some of like the Yosakura blood just for the purposes of, it's like, it's a weird reference to make. It's adept. Like, it just, I wonder, will it have, like, effects, like, kind of like Luffy's gear technique? Specifically, kind of something similar to, like, his gear second. I always get that back. Yeah, it's Gear Second. Or like, but the thing I was kind of thinking of, if you've ever read or watched Rosario plus Vampire, when Mocha injects her blood into Sukun's body and like what it enhances him, and eventually, well, that situation turns into what it turns to if you're familiar with Tsubasa plus, not Tsubasa, sorry, Rosario plus Vampire. I'm wondering, could we have a similar thing here, like the negative effects of someone that's not a Yozakura? Maybe one time here and there is fine, but maybe extensive uses will eventually have massive repercussions on the body and destroy it. Who knows? I mean, just kind of like the walking of flower, like, or moon, the technique that Hinagaku uses, the whole like being able to swiftly move, like what it did to Tayo's feet, because he used a very amateur version of it rather than having a perfected version. So it's going to be interesting to see. But so that begs the question, why did they kill Mitsumi's mom if they need the blood of the head? Because they're after Mitsumi now because they need her heart. Because that's the because I was about to say, like, well, we know that her grandmother's still alive, Keiko's alive, but it's like they are like, there's a lot of those records that are sealed because once the head has moved on, we don't know what Keiko's up to, but it is a thing of it's so confidentially buried because it's meant to protect them type of situation. So probably like very few people know what Keiko's actually up to. They probably might not even know that she's still alive, maybe, or maybe they do, but she's so heavily buried like under like whatever she's up to that no one can find her. So because that also begs the question, like, why kill Mitsumi's mom if you could have just taken her heart? Not unless you did and you killed her just to cover up what you did. Maybe there's answers to that. We just haven't gotten so far in the show. But yeah, that they're, as Kiyashiro put it, they're one of the organizations that are after Mitsumi. So obviously there's others after her for different reasons, but this seems to be Tanpopo's main operation. It seems like they're trying to get access and try to produce the Somenin just so they can replicate it, you know, use it themselves, but probably like make big bucks off of it. This is where I kind of wonder where Hide falls into place as a medical professional. Maybe the Yosakuras were like trying to work with him on like, maybe from like a medical standpoint, like Hide was like the doctor for the Yosakuras or something like that. Or maybe, like I said, he was a scientist / doctor, like who was helping them along that line of trying to replicate it or do something with it. Like it feels like that might be why he was targeted, because of his connection to the Yosakuras in that regard. Like maybe Tanpopo was after whatever information he might have discerned, maybe some research he has about the Somenin and what he discovered, and maybe that's what that's about. Either way, while all discovering this, Makoto shows up and attacks Tayo. Luckily, he was protected by the massive weight that Kiyashiro, which was meant to be kind of a punishment, but also was meant to help him, but help him in the most effed up way, ended up benefiting him in this regard. But Makoto ain't just some scientist. He was able to block Tayo's gun, because for Tayo, it's like this. He explained to Makoto, it's like, I'm not here for revenge. I'm simply here to protect Makoto. I want to learn the truth, and I have, and it sucks of what happened to my family. So I can get justice at the same time, but my main and ultimate priority is protecting my wife, you know, which is, you know. But Makoto, like, easily, like, squashes the shot and manages to get away with the laptop. But whatever information he was able to get off of it beforehand, Tayo still has. So, but now it brings him a step closer, because now he knows what Tanpopo is and what they're about. I'm curious to know where Makoto ranks in all of it. He seems like he might be a top dog, but not like a toppity top of the organization. Like if this were like a the parallel I want to think of, it's like there's a series I'm always forgetting, because it's Questism, how like there's rankings amongst people. Like I think he's probably in the top 10 secretly, maybe not, I don't know, whatever his circumstances are. But it's like I said, I thought it was so interesting that he didn't know. He was like, oh, I heard rumors. Just simply that word of like, I heard rumors that you were alive. Not that he knew, which makes you wonder, did the rest of Tanpopo not know? Or are there people in Tanpopo who knew, who just never thought it was like, well, right, he survived, let's just let him live. That's even Makoto's perspective of like, yeah, you have an extended life, so I hope you don't waste it. It's like, yeah, you kind of escaped our grasp, but it's like, yeah, you weren't worthy of killing. So it's like, that might be your undoing, not going back to finish the job. job. You know, that's always kind of the thing of like, yeah, you need to make sure you defeat any or kill any surviving members, because that person will come back for revenge and they will be your undoing. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what we learn more about Tanpopo as we go further. It's going to be interesting to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.